Hi, good evening and welcome to this evening's information webinar on the Let's Act program to appreciate arts, culture, community, creativity, collaboration, talent, and talent development. So we're just going to begin. I want to thank you all for your patience as we got set up. We wanted to also give everyone an opportunity to sign in as much as possible so that we can have as many people here as we can. So to just give you a bit of an idea of what and how this evening's webinar is going to go, we will have a bit of introduction because this is a collaborative endeavor between organizations from St. Maarten and Aruba. And then we will share some background of the program, expand on the collaborative structure, talk about the goals of the program, this very interesting, innovative participatory program, next steps, and also a very important survey that is a critical part of the entire program. Additionally, we will have a Q&A. On your side of the webinar, you should see at the very bottom a Q&A option. If you would like to ask questions, you can always click on that Q&A button, and then you can put your questions into that section, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can in real time in the chat box. And then we will also answer any unanswered questions at the end of the webinar. So please, if you hear something of interest and you would like to pose a question for us to address, please put it in during our presentation. So as I mentioned, this is a collaborative endeavor between St. Maarten and Aruba. I am Makisha Brooks. I am the director of the St. Maarten Development Fund. Here with me on St. Maarten, we have
Jose Sommers. I'm the director of Foresee Foundation.
And we also have
Hi, I'm Luz Nauta, and I'm providing support for Foresee and SMDF in this project.
Fantastic. And this is what we will call the St. Maarten squad. But a couple miles away, we have, of course, our sister within the kingdom and also a very close partner in developing programming in Aruba. So I'd love for our colleagues in Aruba to take an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Daniel Tecklenburg. I am director of CEDE ARUBA, a local development agency. And together with me, I have...
My name is Ray Ann Hernandez, and I am the managing director of UNOCA, which is the cultural funding agency. Together with Daniel and our partners in St. Maarten, we are going to offer you a great webinar today to introduce you to a brand new initiative.
Yes, and we have also together with us Mrs. Daphne Connor. She's in the background. She's helping us in the process of supporting and contacting organizations here in Aruba. So welcome everybody to this webinar. So who is with us here in the call? I assume most of them are here. So up until a few hours ago, we had many organizations that registered. From Aruba, we have a total of 61 organizations that registered, from which 35 are cultural and art organizations and 26 are social organizations. And from St. Maarten, we have a total of 46 organizations registered, and from which 24 are cultural and art organizations and 22 are social organizations. So it's a total of 107. We are really happy with this interest, and for us it's enormously exciting that we can launch this collaborative projects, and we hope that many organizations will join and be on board with this nice initiative. So to tell you a little bit more about the background of this program, and actually I have to ask my fellow Arubians for apologies, but we have to do this presentation completely in English since Sister Island St. Maarten is English speaking. So this is a collaborative project with Fonds voor Cultuurparticipatie. It's a Dutch social cultural fund, a fund that promotes cultural participation intangible heritage, cultural education, ensuring culture is inviting and accessible for everyone. The fund is aiming especially to make culture accessible for everybody in the kingdom. And they have also the wish to impact more communities in the Caribbean part of the kingdom. A bit more than 1 year ago, we had a very interesting talk to see if there is a possibility to create more collaboration directly with development agencies on the islands. And we have spoke several months, and a few months ago in April, we signed a 2-year pilot collaboration, an MOU, between Fonds voor Cultuurparticipatie and CEDE ARUBA to experiment with a new way of working. I will explain a little bit more about this. So in this program, as we mentioned, we will collaborate between CEDE ARUBA, UNOCA, St. Maarten Development, and Foresee Foundation, very valuable partners. And the idea is that the local organizations will have a bigger role in approaching local cultural entities and also social organizations and making the funding more accessible. This MOU entails a very nice number. So we have 1 million euros allocated from Fonds voor Cultuurparticipatie for possible funding. We are really, really grateful for this trust and for the possibility to experiment in a new way of working, since many cultural foundations in Holland experience difficulty to find collaboration on the islands, and also many cultural organizations experience difficulty to access funding from these entities. So we have actually a very great opportunity to try something new. The collaborative structure in this process, in this project, is that Fonds voor Cultuurparticipatie is the funder. CEDE ARUBA is the coordinating partner, and on both islands we will have implementation partners, as we already mentioned. So in Aruba it's CEDE together with UNOCA, and on the St. Maarten sites it's SMDF and Foresee. And on both islands, these organizations will serve the local organizations on both islands. Yes, so and this program is a participatory program. It is not a traditional grant program. So the good news is that there will be no need to submit funding application. So we will try in another way to bring organizations on board. And if I'm not mistaken, Maki Brooks will speak a little bit more now about this participatory program approach.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. So I know that many of the organizations that are currently on this call are familiar with SMDF and CEDE ARUBA, and traditionally we are grant-making organizations. However, this program is very interesting in that we will not be necessarily having organizations submit a traditional application for a grant. So instead, Let's Act will be a subsidized partnership program between all of the participating organizations. So you, organizations, whether social, community, or cultural arts, you all will be essentially equal partners, similarly with us, and CEDE ARUBA will serve as coordinator. So what that means is that the entire budget of this program will be looked at collectively, meaning all of the budgets of all participating organizations will be combined and assessed equally against that 1 million guilders allocated by the cultural funds that Daniel mentioned before. So we're very, very interested in that. Additionally, what is also really interesting about this program is while we are able to bring the arts closer to the community, we're also able to invest and bridge the capacity of the arts and cultural or social community organizations that will be participating in this program. So with that, if Daniel, you can kind of share, give us a slide with the goals of the program so that everyone can see what some of those goals are that we set out to achieve. Okay, while that is loading, because it's not quite up on the screen for us just yet, if we could get that on the screen. Some of the goals are to provide, of course, the financial support to the participating organizations. So again, accessing that budget of €1 million and providing financial support. Additionally, we want to ensure that we can bring art and cultural initiatives to target vulnerable and marginalized groups. That's one of the reasons that this program is also open to social community organizations, because if a social community organization would like to introduce an art or cultural initiative, this program is a perfect opportunity for a social community organization to expand some of what it's providing to its beneficiaries by introducing or growing its art cultural activities. Additionally, we'll be able to kind of stimulate entrepreneurship within arts and cultural organizations on both islands, because we do understand that for many artists, this is also part of their livelihood. So we're very pleased to be able to also support entrepreneurship through this program. And lastly, like I mentioned before, we really want to build the capacity of both the art and cultural organizations, but also the social community organization. So there is really a multi-win for all participating organizations. Now, if we look at some of the eligibility, because of course we have many people on the call and we want you all to understand who is eligible for this program. So the first thing we need to stress is that beneficiaries of this program must be either cultural or art programs or social cultural organizations, and they must be legally registered at the Chamber of Commerce as an association or foundation on either Aruba or St. Maarten. This is a hard rule for all participating organizations. So that means, unfortunately, that government departments are ineligible to apply themselves. Again, we understand that our governments want to create more access to programming, but this is not eligible for any government departments. Of course, I do see a few government representatives on this call. We definitely encourage you to work with either, a social organization or art cultural organization to develop something and or share as much documentation. Departments within government, you can encourage the cultural organizations to submit all of their stuff. Like, that's what we hope that you can do. Additionally, this means that individuals, so just the individual human being, will not be eligible. And any individual would have to be under some sort of foundation or association on Aruba or St. Maarten. So we know that we have a few kind of art groupings. That would be a fantastic place for individuals to get together and work through any type of collective or art grouping. Additionally, with something we're going to talk later about that was mentioned in the introduction in the agenda is that we have a survey. Because this entire program is going to be assessed in its entirety with all organizations, to get as much information from all of the participating organizations, we have designed a survey that will be sent to you all shortly after this call. That survey is mandatory. If you want your organization to be considered for this program, you must complete the survey. You must. We will talk in more detail about the survey and what to expect from that. And then the survey must be completed by July 2nd. That is a hard deadline. So by essentially 11:59 p.m. on July 2nd, the survey must be completed for your organization to be considered. So as we have provided that information, we want to kind of explain what the next steps are going to be for your organizations. So because this is not a traditional grant program, we have what we think to be a very simple process, but it does take some preparation on your part. So we will be sharing some of the questions from the survey this evening. So your first step will be to prepare the content and documents that you need in advance. And again, we'll be sharing that. And then the second step is to simply complete the survey and upload the documents that you need to upload. Right? So now we're going to talk in more detail about the survey, and I'll let Jose lead into that.
Okay, let's talk about the survey. First of all, I would like to come back to the project name, the program name that we chose, because that's relevant in regards to the survey. We call our program Let's Act, to basically stick to what we stand for, be active. As organizations, we talk about art, the A. We talk about the C's of culture, community, creativity, and collaboration. And we talk about the T, which is very important also for our funder, is talent development. And talent development can be done on each and every level throughout all generations and cultures. So that is something to emphasize. Let's act. And with this survey, which is also kind of assessment, that is where we start with the acting. In order to get sufficient information, we need to collect information and see it in such a way that this survey or this assessment is our program's content. It's literally, if no one in Aruba and in St. Maarten fills out this survey, we have nothing, and then we don't have access to the 1 million. Yes, so we together, again, that's the why let us, are going to do this. The survey is set up in such a way, it has similarities with some grant applications, because of course we all need to know from each other, like, who are we? What are we doing? Who are we catering for? The target group. We talk about timelines. Of course, we talk about how strong is your organization? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the people to organize everything? And at the end, of course, there's always the question about what will your program cost? Because 1 million sounds a lot. But if we have 50 organizations and 50 projects with collaboration, then you can calculate how much that is. So that is where we need to take a look at. And at the end, we also talk about collaboration, because as you could feel, we have the social organizations, and Makisha explained that very well. We have also, and Daniel, we have the cultural, artistic, arts organizations, and the social community organizations. Yeah, for culture organizations, they really focus on art and to improve skills of participants, where in social organizations, they often have activities, they do things with their participants, with their clients, where they often use arts. It can be sports, sometimes it can be games, it can be anything. But in this case, we talk about arts and culture as a tool to achieve social objectives. Having that said, we take a few slides, and let me share with you this rule before you all start making print screens of everything that's going on. You will receive, after this meeting, we will send you this PowerPoint. That's why it's so important that we have your email addresses, so ensure that's okay. And we will also give you a PDF document of this survey. So that gives you time first to look at the assessment survey, what type of questions will be asked, and what type of documents you need to have with you. Yeah, because especially on St. Maarten, we have a lot of problems with power outages, and we feel so sorry if you're halfway and then, you know, electricity cut off and you have to start all over again, or you can't find your documents that you have to upload. So it's smart to use a laptop actually, where you save on your battery and where you have actually your documents ready to be uploaded. That's a very practical in-between remark. So let's go to the first question. So of course, before we started, we said we do a general survey, but the more and more we developed, we said, you know, avoiding a long application, let's combine the two things. So therefore, we need to have your organization's contact info and also to reply to you and that we can be in contact with each other. It's the regular information, organization, name, emails. If you use your own email as your also for your organization, then you type in twice the same email. I think that is the most important. For the rest is straightforward. So this is question 1, and we have in total 25 questions. Yeah, so I have also a slide, I think slide number 2, which is question number 2. That question is asking you about, you know, the arts and culture have many different disciplines, how they call it. And of course, at the end, we do not want to have 40 projects that all focus on drawing and paintings. Yeah, so we try to get a nice diversity, variety in the different art disciplines. So therefore, it's important that you fill it out. This question is, I think, the question that's asked both for the social organizations and for the culture organizations. So to let you know, when we see your email address and your name of your organization, you're either a cultural organization or a social organization. Maybe you are a little bit combined, but yeah, you need to make a selection. Are you mainly cultural or mainly social? And you will receive a specific cultural or social survey. Yeah, this is another question. I have to look now myself. Yeah, there are a number of questions that focus on certain items, and you have to answer the whole question. Yeah, so you can't say I only answer half, because then you cannot go to the next question. So that is really important that you're doing that. So here, of course, we would like to know is how often do you deliver your programs? Is that once per month? Is it an event? Is it that you offer real-life classes? So per item, you can fill it in. Yeah, and then you click the blue button, you go to the next question. And so let's do that. And here you have a very long question, and by each you click. The good thing is you don't have to type, you only have to click. Yeah, it takes some time maybe, but here we try to figure out the same as that. We do not want to have 40 the same drawing projects. We don't want to do projects for only seniors or for only children. We like to have a diverse target group that really represents the community. And as you know, in the funding world, a lot of you, I saw the names, a lot of you are familiar with that. At the end of a program, you want to measure impact. Yeah, and impact is a difficult terminology, but it's definitely about the number of people that you achieve, that you reach, but also about, is it a good representation of your community? Yeah, are the vulnerable groups represented? Do we have the different age categories, the different cultures, etc.? Yeah, so that question too, you need to answer it in order to move on. So we have a few more to just show you, give you a glimpse of the survey. So here is another question that is about your sources of income. And I'm very proud of the organization, the business who developed the software, because here you will be asked to click, and on the right side of the question you can see it. You can literally click the order of importance of your sources of income. So let's say your organization is mostly funded by government, then it's a 1. But if your second source of income is, for example, for St. Maarten Development Fund, then you click there the 2, and then St. Maarten Development Fund will automatically go to the second place. So you literally determine the order of your income sources. Important for us because it also says something about sustainability of your program and your organization. Another example of a question is, okay, yeah, we had a discussion about it. I know Aruba is, of course, is a bigger island. They have about twice the population of St. Maarten, and in terms of square miles, they are considerably larger. And I know that in Aruba they have a quite good, let's say, districts, build-up of districts. St. Maarten a little bit less, but we are working hard on creating community councils, for example. And so what we have done in order to get a grip on where do activities take place, we have identified neighborhoods. Aruba has their own, so we have in total 4 surveys: 2 culture, 2 social, and Aruba and St. Maarten. Yes, so we will cater to your specific island and your specific organization. Also to be filled out completely. Next question. Yeah, I just said something about impact. And from culture participation, the name says it, and they do 2 things. They focus on culture and they focus on participation. And impact is often measured by, yeah, you see 4 items there, for example, social cohesion or your reach. So we identified 3 or 4 items that you can fill in and see for yourself how important that is. Yeah, of course, we put also there skill and talent development. That, for example, might be very important when you are a professional art organization. Yeah, where you prepare maybe students for college to go to a dance academy or something. Still, there must be a kind of participatory element in your program. Okay, another question. Yes, this is the last, almost the last question, the one before the last. We realize, because we can brainstorm and think as organizers and coordinators of this program, that we know it all, but we don't. And we do not know everything about your organization. So we said, let's do an open question. We also know that we have some organizations who have maybe not done certain things as yet, but who are planning to do so for next year. And we are really excited to hear that. And I use this opportunity also, I know on St. Maarten, for example, and Makisha referred to that, we have a number of artists, we have cultural organizations, and they are, contrary to, for example, the sports sector, they are not yet established in an official entity. It might be great also in terms of capacity and impact to use this opportunity. Now, you might not be able to fill out all the parts of the survey, but then use this section to share your ambitions. That is, I think, really important. I'm looking at Maki. So think about this. Yeah, and then the last question is a real practical one, but really important. And think about it before you submit a survey. Here you can upload documents. I'm not sure if it says 2 uploads. We were discussing to see if more can be included. We will let you know. If not, then maybe you have to combine some documents. That also is maybe dependent on the power and the strength of the software that's being used. Yeah, so if it remains 2, you will see that in the updated version, or we will email you that. Then, yeah, you have to combine documents by merging them in PDF or something. So yeah, those were like 10 slides, 10 print screens, and like I said, you will receive a PDF so you can really study the questions before and get an idea. So I hope that gives a little bit more insight, and then I think it's Makisha's turn to take over.
Thank you, Jose. So that captures much of the survey. We know that there were quite a few questions in the survey that may require some like further explanation or assistance. So on both Aruba and St. Maarten, we've set up what we have called survey support sessions. So we think it's a very fun name. In Aruba, session 1 will be on the 19th of June, essentially next week, Wednesday. The first session is at 3 p.m. and the second session will be at 6 p.m. So that is essentially next Wednesday will be the 2 sessions in Aruba at 3 p.m. and at 6 p.m. at CEDE Aruba's office on Beatrixstraat. And then on St. Maarten, we will have our 2 sessions at the office of Foresee Foundation on Village Road. The first session will be June 18th at 6:30, and the second session will be June 20th at 6:30. So that will be next Tuesday and next Thursday at 6:30. So we encourage you, once you've received this PowerPoint presentation as well as a PDF of the survey, to take some time to prepare your responses, get your documents in order, and then if you would like, you can always attend one of these sessions and you will get one of or all 3 of us to help you through the surveys on St. Maarten, and then the same at the CEDE Aruba office. Yeah. So that is the formal presentation. So now we would like to go over to the Q&A, and we see that we have a few questions. Then I will toss one to Daniel, which is what exactly will be the role of the Culture Fund? So the question is, why are we not going directly to the fund giver? What makes this fund so different that we're doing it as a collective rather than going directly to FCP?
Yeah, so maybe I can start answering this question. So in practice, for many years, it seems that it's difficult for organizations established on the islands to reach the Dutch funding agencies. For one part, because the policies are mostly based off needs in Holland and not so much adapted to the needs in the region. And therefore, the idea is to experiment in this way of working to make the budget more accessible. So the goal of the Culture Participation Fund is to stimulate cultural and art organizations to being able to reach an easier working budget, but also to match them with social targets groups so that we really serve the community at this moment that is not participating. And therefore, we also want to make it work that more organizations on the island at the same time can participate and benefit from the funding. This is why we came up with the idea to make this survey so that we can actually document the many cultural organizations and also the social organizations and see where we can match initiatives together. So just to give you a few examples, if you are a cultural organization that gives services to youth in different neighborhoods, then through this survey and by uploading your program documents, you can eventually get a budget to continue your programs in the different neighborhoods. If you are a social organization, for example, you are a residential home for people with disabilities, and you would like to include cultural programs in the program of your organization, then you can receive a budget and you can learn to work with an artistic organization. So the idea is to build crossovers between organizations, because if organizations normally apply as a grant for themselves, like submit an application for themselves, we will lose many opportunities to collaborate. And one problem on the island is collaboration. So with this way of working, we will actually be able to stimulate collaboration through the fact that you won't have to submit a grant application based on all the information of the surveys. And as you saw, we have more than 100 registered participants in this call and also in the program, hopefully later. It is impossible to submit so many applications. So at the end of the day, we will be able to grant contracts, funding contracts to the different entities. Maki, maybe you can check for a next question.
Maybe, Danielle, there's something to add, because I saw also some of the questions. This program does not take away the opportunity for you to still apply by the cultural funding agencies. So let's say you're a cultural organization and you want to apply by cultural participation in the Netherlands, you still can do that, as long as your program is not exactly the same as what you want in this program.
Yeah, thank you. Then Daniel will definitely be your moderator. Here's another question that we have. What will be the role of CEDE ARUBA and UNOCA? What can we expect from them? Will they also be making use of this funding? Will they have a coordinator information lookouts in place to address questions when the NGOs may have them?
Yes, I think it's the same case with St. Maarten also. So we are implementing organizations based on the information that we get. We will select organizations, as many as possible, to make use of the funding. And of course, we will give practical support. And yeah, the idea is that the smallest part of this funding will be used by our own organizations. We will have some small budget to give the support, because our organizations are already also very busy. It's the same for SMDF and Foresee, organizations that don't have so much capacity. But the majority of the funding will go to the field and into collaborative structures. So we will give support, we will give coaching, we will give training, but the majority of the fund will go into action and activities. That's why the program is also called Let's Act. So we have the funding for the actions.
Okay, great. Next question. In case of a social organization, is there a requirement for the cultural aspect to be in collaboration with a cultural professional or entity? If yes, which types of entities or persons qualify as professional?
Yeah, so in my opinion, and based on what we want to do, a social organization is stimulated to include cultural or art elements into their programs, especially if they are working with vulnerable target groups. And from the survey, we will try to find the organizations that best match your target group. So in practice, it's not always, not all organizations know each other. So if, for example, a residential home wants to do specific art programs and we see an art organization that offer these programs, then they can be matched. Additionally, if the social organizations already has a relationship with an artist that they want to work directly with, in this case, they could also make use of a part of the budget to work with this one or group of artists. So there is quite some flexibility, and based on the survey results, we will try to make the best matches possible. And of course, we will not only make selections and decide for ourselves, but we will also get back to organizations to communicate over our ideas and proposals based on the survey information.
Okay, great. For the program and survey, we are this organization, they are a performance foundation. How would they be able to apply? Because they promote performing arts, as in spoken words, musical performance, dance performances. Would they be eligible?
Definitely,
Yes.
yes.
Absolutely. So the idea is also for those kind of organizations, it is important to give, for example, let's say it like this, in Aruba, many young people do not have so much access to live music or to art performances because the programs are not always accessible. Maybe they are in one place only on the island, but we can, for example, see if we can support these projects to come closer to the different neighborhoods so that young people have the opportunity to experience, for example, live music and authentic bands with their music. So in Aruba, the nightlife, for example, is very much dedicated to tourists, and therefore it is very expensive, and the music is very much related to only partying. Meanwhile, there are a lot of local groups that want to perform, and we can help them with funding to bring the performance closer to the youth or to other audiences. Yes, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, and I also want to stress that, as we mentioned previously, as long as the organization is able to provide proof of registration as a foundation or association via a KVK excerpt, then you are definitely eligible as long as you complete the survey. So then the next question, Daniel, is when is the proposed implementation date for this program?
So, yeah, this is for us also an interesting question because we have never done this. I have to say that this is truly, for us, it is an innovation. It's some pioneer work that we're trying to do here. It's a pilot also to see if such a way of working works. So as Maki just said, the deadline for the survey is the 2nd of July. So if we have all the surveys together, then we will have a few days where we will match organizations, we will see the opportunities that we have, and eventually we will have to talk back and communicate back to the local organizations with some ideas and proposals. And after that, we will submit a draft document to Fonds voor Cultuurparticipatie. We really hope that we will have a rich program where cultural organizations and social organizations intensively collaborate. And the draft version that we will send back to them has to be approved. So we don't, as local organizations, we don't have the mandate to approve the complete budget, but we have the opportunity to submit one collective program for Aruba, one collective program for St. Maarten, and get this approved. From what I heard so far, cultural participation will be available to read our proposal between July 15 and the month of August. And we hope that somewhere by the end of August, during the month of September, we will have a clear decision. And if it's approved, then we can kick off with this program.
Fantastic, thank you. We have a question regarding the survey. Does the survey allow the responder to save a draft temporarily before submitting?
We had the same question. Unfortunately, it is not possible to save between, and this is why we are talking. We gave some examples of the slides, of the survey slides tonight. So as you saw, it is not required to put a lot of text information there. However, the survey really goes into details. So it is important for everybody to really prepare. Tomorrow we will send the presentation of this webinar. We will also send a complete PDF file of the survey because it's more than 20 questions. So if you take the time to go through the whole PDF file and you can print it for yourself eventually, you can fill it in manually. and so that you're really prepared for the moment that you fill in the survey, that you can do it in one shot. And it is also important to prepare the documents that you want to upload as better information. By the way, you are allowed to upload up to 4 documents. So if you have, for example, the annual program of the last year and the year before, or if you have specific project documents of ideas for projects with budget also in mind and documented, please load them up as more information that we can get also about the necessary finances, that more it helps us to create this complete program document. So prepare for the survey, go through it, discuss it eventually with your colleagues or in your board, and then on the 19th, I don't remember the date for St. Maarten, so on the 19th we have the support session date. Make use of these dates for Aruba and for St. Maarten. Yeah, St. Maarten was 18 and 20, I guess. So make use of these dates to come in, and we can ask any questions that you still have.
Fantastic. Concerning the program rather, is this 1 million pilot for a predetermined period? So how long is the program supposed to run for?
In the agreement that CEDE ARUBA has signed with Cultural Participation, the program period will be around 2 years. So the idea is to use these funds within 2 years. And in the MOU also, there is the possibility to extend this program for a longer period, but also to more islands. So one thing that we didn't mention so much in the beginning of this webinar is CEDE ARUBA, UNOCA, SMDF, and Foresee. We really believe that the islands need to collaborate more together. If we collaborate more and if we include other islands also, other kingdom islands into this collaboration, we can be stronger platforms, we can facilitate local organizations better. And if we show that this way of working really is effective, then this way of working might grow in the future.
Great. Now, if there is a new organization that hasn't been around for 1 year yet, what should they do where the documents are concerned? If, for example, they don't have budget reports or annual reports, can they still be eligible for funding?
Yes, they can. Instead of submitting annual reports of the last years, you can also submit project ideas and documentation about future plans, as you say, also mentioned during the explanation about the survey. However, I think it's also important to highlight here that if you are a complete new organization, it's also important to manage expectations. Normally, when we, as CEDE ARUBA, for example, when we fund new organizations, we normally do not fund gigantic projects in the beginning. We will start with pilots. We will look also at the capacity of organizations. So if the organization has a track record that demonstrates good projects, good project management, and also reach of the target group in the past, then it's more likely that these organizations will receive eventually more support. And projects or organizations that are quite new, then it might lead to maybe a smaller grant and a smaller collaboration in order to gain experience.
Yeah, and I want to say that that is generally the same for SMDF as well. Again, CEDE ARUBA and SMDF operate almost exactly the same. So similarly for us, we also assess an organization based on its track record and its ability to prove the capacity and likelihood for success. Jose, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think, that's what we see. And Foresee Foundation, for our colleagues in Aruba, we are mainly a capacity organization. We have an NGO platform. So we focus a lot on training and workshops for NGOs and also on collaboration. And throughout a number of projects that we are assisting, programs, whereby we are not funders, but we encourage organizations, especially when you're new, to collaborate with other organizations. So if you are a cultural organization, still you can submit together something or indicate in that open question, we do this and that. There's this other cultural organization in Aruba that is doing slightly something different, but we still want to collaborate and together maybe with a social organization. And it's really, really important because more and more, we are not one man on an island. We need to collaborate because one and one can be a lot more than two.
Yeah, agreed. Now we have another question which is very similar to the previous. If you are an individual, how do you partner with an NGO, especially if that NGO does not have a cultural background? Do you answer the survey questions on the basis of the NGO or from the individual?
Now, actually, as I see it, there is no survey questionnaire for individuals. So as we mentioned already, the eligibility criteria for this program is either you are a cultural or art entity or you're a social entity. So if as an individual artist, for example, you want to participate in this program, then you should maybe reach out to a cultural art organization or to a social organization and then discuss opportunities. If you are, I think that's also something that we discussed before. There are several art platforms. For example, in Aruba, there are also some platforms in St. Maarten, as I understood, but not all individual artists are affiliated with those. So this is also a goal for the next years to build some more structure. In Aruba, there are initiatives, for example, such as Go Cultura Foundation, trying to educate, trying to build a capacity of artists, trying to build structures, and the same could count for St. Maarten. So in the beginning of this project, as an individual, it's maybe a bit more complicated. However, I would encourage you to talk to the existing art centers, to existing social organizations, and to discuss opportunities for collaboration in this case.
Great. Do organizations need any specific human capacity? And can this be worked on through this funding?
Could you repeat the question one more time?
So do the organizations need to have any particular type of human capacity? Or can this funding be used to either improve the capacity of the members or the staff of the organization?
No, this is a good question. I think on the one side, the funding can be used to organize activities. So this means if you're talking about capacity, it can cover the fees of artists, it can cover the fees for coordination, it can cover the fees to rent a space or to make use of a space. It can also be used to purchase material. Funds for Cultuurparticipatie in Holland, they allow 20% of budgets for material investments, but for the islands, they have a different approach. So they allow 40% of the budget for material investment, which is also an opportunity. Additionally, part of the funds, if we're talking about capacity building and training, parts of the funds can also be used if we're talking about building capacity in terms of knowledge. It can also be used for that. However, I think it is important that not all organizations are focusing on this at the same time. So, for example, in Aruba, CEDE sometimes give training and does education, but we also have in the cultural field, we have UNOCA, we have Go Cultura, that offer already capacity building. So I would assume that we would select specific organizations to focus on this part so that we have most of the budget for activity and impact on the target groups.
Yes.
Does it make sense? I hope I'm making sense here.
Yes, and Daniel,
Yes.
if I may add, within the program, we also talked about some mandatory capacity building workshops that we will be offering to the participants of the program.
Yes, absolutely. So it's important that as you are participating in this program, you're committed to a certain management of your organization, transparency of the finances, but also you're really trying to make a step forward and to participate in the training activities that will be offered. Yeah.
Okay, great. Next question. Are there clear definitions as to what is considered cultural/art organization or social community organization?
Yeah, so since we are in this pilot, we were also struggling a little bit with the definitions. So if we're talking about culture and art organization, there has to be a little bit more focus on the artistic part, but also on maybe historical parts, identity searching parts. And as we're talking about social and community, it will be, maybe this is clearer to explain. Social organizations, really organizations that serve target groups that are vulnerable, that are that need social support. The part of the community comes in when we're talking about community spaces, such, for example, in Aruba, we have community centers, we have neighborhood-based places where organizations can organize activities, but we also have schools, which very specific, we did not put educational organizations here because we do not really intend to fund curricular programs. This is important to say. However, the school is also a place where you can organize activities after school hours. So there is also an opportunity for some schools in this part to team up with a cultural institution or a social institution and to serve the group there. So I'm hoping I'm making sense. So cultural art refers more to the artistic and the creative part, and the social is more the reach to the target group. The community is more the place where it happens. So it can be a community center and it can be a school or any other community space. It can be even on the street in a neighborhood of the social housing organization where an activity takes place, or where will be, for example, redesigning a part of the neighborhood with a mural that is being done by disadvantaged groups. Let's say it like that.
Yeah, in addition to that, Danielle, I think it's very easy because each official organization, they have a notary deed. And in your notary deed, you have your objectives are formulated there. And let's be honest, if your name is, okay, you're an Institute of Arts, then you were established for arts. If you are a community council or you are a neighborhood, then in principle, you were set up as a social organization. Yeah, when you are a platform for daycare centers, you are a social related institute, same for school boards, schools. So I think in 99% of the cases, it's very clear.
Yeah, it's important that you make the choice, because there's a survey for the cultural and the art organizations, and there's a survey for the social and community. So before you fill in the survey, make sure you know in which category you match best.
But actually, we already said that we have the registrations and we see the applications. And on St. Maarten's side, I saw only one organization where actually that organization should be a social organization and not cultural. So they will receive a survey. They will receive a survey based on what they have filled out, the organizations, when they registered for the webinar.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Next question. How long will it take for the funding request or the packet to be approved?
Yeah, as I mentioned already, I tried to explain it earlier. So we have a deadline for the survey. We aim to create the collaborative program with the collaborative budget within, I would say, 6 weeks. It has to be sent to cultural participation. It has to be approved by cultural participation. Once it is approved, there is a period that we have to award contracts. So it's not like the traditional grant agreement because there's no funding application, but it will be in a form of contract awarding. So we will offer from Aruba side and from St. Maarten side, we will offer contracts to the beneficiaries. And of course, if the beneficiary agrees to accept the contract, then it can go quite fast. And also in this contract agreement, there will be the specific terms about how the funding is being passed over to the organization and which requirements are there for reporting and also for some auditing purposes. But it's not sure how fast the program document will be completely done and how fast it will be approved, or maybe there are questions from Holland. So this is something for us, it's a bit a gray area. We don't have experience with this, but we aim, as I mentioned, July 2nd deadline. During July, we want to have the program document done, send it over to Holland, and we hope in September we are so far that we can grant contracts. And this is idealistic. It can take a bit longer, but we really hope that it will be done in September.
Yeah. Next question. If an organization is already has a cultural program and is already working with professionals, can the organization submit for funds for support for existing programming?
Yes, that's the idea, that existing organizations also can get support for existing activities. However, important for us, since we are really talking about cultural participation, for us it's really important which are the target groups that you are reaching. Is there a good match between the cultural activities and the target group that can improve their well-being, or that we can improve social cohesion? So this has to be well documented in the survey. And but yeah, existing activities are also eligible.
The next question is very interesting. If an organization is in the process of incorporation, so they are currently at the notary, are they still eligible to submit a survey, particularly as they may not be in existence in the next 2 weeks, but expect to be operational by the time we've finished negotiations and everything with FCP?
Yes, we didn't discuss this actually in the project team so much, but I'm quite sure that they are. So I would encourage them to fill in the survey. And the only thing, if the survey is filled, if they are selected for participation in the program, and if the total budget is approved, at the moment that we would award a contract, the organization should be established formally. Otherwise, we could not sign any contract. So this would be the latest point where the organization should be incorporated.
So yes, indeed, we did not talk about that, but we echo the same statements here on St. Maarten. If you are in the process, please submit the survey so that we at least can consider your organization. So the next question is, and I know this question is likely because we've had this entire webinar in English, so thank you all for accommodating the St. Maarteners. Can an organization submit or upload their documents in Dutch?
No, I don't have issues with reading documents in Dutch. But I think this is a question for St. Maarten also. I don't think that in St. Maarten questions with.
That is not a problem for us. So whatever you have, whether it's English or Dutch, please upload them.
Yeah. Yeah,
general.
Sorry, yes, Foresee, go ahead.
In general, it's important to make choices. We have not decided on everything, but in other applications like St. Maarten is so clear because everybody speaks English. And if you're not able to speak English, you have to learn it. Otherwise, you can't function on St. Maarten, basically. And don't forget that our teams are expanding too, because you have project management, you have several people involved in the execution and implementation of these programs. And so we need to discuss, you can't expect from everybody to speak 3 languages. So most probably on St. Maarten, an application format throughout the course of the project, like you have to make choices in language. So most probably for St. Maarten, it will become English.
Yeah.
Application fine for now, but later, yeah.
Okay, then Daniel, you wanted to add?
Yeah, just for Aruba, as normally many Arubans speak 4 languages. We are very much used to work in Dutch and in English. Papiamento normally projects that are like CEDE ARUBA funds, or that we fund with smaller budgets from other funding partners, can also be submitted in Papiamento. So I think this is, since we do not have to send all projects individually to Holland, this is a very specific opportunity for those organizations that are really not comfortable to work in Dutch or in English, to also provide information in Papiamento. So I would say, let's use this opportunity for those that would like to write in their native language. Let's do this, and we can still send a summary or provide a summary in the project document that is in Dutch or in English.
Thank you, Daniel. Next question. As you mentioned that this program is for 2 years, can an organization apply or submit their budget for 2 years?
Yeah, this is actually, I think that we will be able to answer this question once we have seen all the surveys, because it highly depends on the amount of organizations that will participate. So if there is a smaller amount of organizations, then maybe we can provide funding for a longer period. If there is a very high amount of organizations, I would assume that maybe the funding is for a little bit shorter periods. But these things, this is a difficult question to answer now. What I can answer for sure is that the funding that we have can be spent within 2 years. So this is a clear answer, and I hope that that we will still have as many organizations as possible, and then we can fund specific projects and specific time periods.
Okay, so then I see most questions have been answered in another form. So we just have, I'd say, 3 unanswered questions. So we'll do those, and then we'll start to wrap things up. So this question is, do you know if the projects may include a percentage of investment, or do they have to include an own contribution?
At this moment, in the agreement that we have with the funds for Cultuurparticipatie, there's no requirement for an own contribution. I think, however, if you can indicate in your budget, if you are an existing organization that has existing activities and has other funding sources, such as government funding or other grants that you get, or maybe you have another form of revenue, it would be good to indicate it in your documents, and it will make it only more attractive to work, because one of the goals, as we mentioned, is cultural entrepreneurship and also capacity building and sustainability. So it is important to show that the project is not only depending on one single funding source. However, it is not a strict requirement to have own contribution. It is, of course, it makes the organization stronger, but it's not a formal requirement.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I'm just gonna, summarize, because we have some repeat questions. So just to reiterate, if an organization was previously doing programming using its own budget or the budget from another funder, you can upload all of those documents, because that provides insights into what the organization has been doing. So even if you received a grant for activities in the past, you can still upload all of those documents in the survey. Those are all appropriate, as a reminder. Then Daniel, I think this is our last question. How or when will the information collected from the survey be communicated back to the NGOs? Is the information going to be shared with the NGOs or made public? How will that information be used and or shared?
The first thing that we will do after the survey, there will be a matching report with suggestions. This matching report will be done by Cornerstone Economics. I'm not sure if everybody knows them. I think in St. Maarten, less than in Aruba, of course. It's a separate organization that helps us with the data analysis. And I assume that definitely a summary of these matches can be shared. However, at the end of the day, there is a selection process. And the selection process will take place internally after considering what we mentioned already. So you have, we will be selecting participants based on the impact of the community, also the maturity of the organization, the reach of the target groups. And this selection process is being done internally between the implementing partners. And the results will also be communicated back to everybody that submitted the survey. Yes.
Thank you, Daniel. That was our final question. I want to let everyone know that we have been taking notes of all of the questions, and we will put together all of the questions, and the email that will go out to everyone will include the PDF of the survey, a PDF of the presentation, the link to this call, and then the FAQ, so frequently asked questions. We will put everything together for you all. From the St. Maarten side, we thank you very much, and we turn it back over to Aruba.
Yes, and yes, from our side, thank you very much. Also in the name of UNOCA and CEDE, thank you for being here. I see still 63 people, persons, organizations in this call. So I hope you're excited. My last words are to bear with us and to see this as a journey and as an experiment, since we have never been doing this in this way, but we believe it creates opportunities to make the funding more accessible, to create new collaborations between social and cultural organizations, to reach groups that have never been reached in this way. So I hope that you have also some space for us to experiment in this. We are going into, it's a journey, a new territory. So we hope that you are on board. We hope we could make you excited to fill in the survey. And again, if you have questions specific, just join the sessions that we already published. And we hope to hear from you. SMDF and Foresee Foundation, always nice to see you. Nice to collaborate, and we will make this a very nice program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.